In October, we had a letter which said, once we've identified content that violates our policies, we create a digital fingerprint of that video so that exact duplicates cannot be re-uploaded and removed before they go live. We also use technology to perform regular sweeps to detect potential national action content so we can remove it quickly. I just searched national action. That was how I found the ones that we raised with you last week.
Right, and in the case of the 4 videos you brought to our attention, they were already flagged to us, 1 by a human, 3 by our technology. It was a reviewer who made the wrong call. In those 4 instances alone, it was a failure in review, not in the proactive detection.
Sure.
Thank you, Chair. Mr McCants, when were you informed that you would be appearing before the Select Committee to give evidence on this issue?
On Friday, I believe.
On Friday. So it begs the question, since Friday, you've not taken it upon yourself, and you've had 2 working days in between, to look at A, what your predecessors have said in this committee and given evidence on, to review how far you've come since you previously gave evidence, and more importantly, this particular incident where there has been this human failure or reviewer's failure, you have no idea.
I looked at my predecessor, Nicholas Lundblad, and his testimony. I saw that what he promised was to do better. He did not promise perfection. He said we are putting systems in place to remove more and more of this content. Many of the national action videos have come down over the past year. We have identified somewhere around 150. Even national action members on other platforms are complaining about YouTube becoming a hostile environment to their videos. We are making progress, but clearly it is not enough.
Mr McCant, earlier on when you were asked the question about previous evidence, you said you were not aware of what was said previously, and now you're saying to this committee that you reviewed what has been said. Can you tell us whether you did review what has been said previously or whether you didn't review?
Sure. I was speaking on the specific point of whether we review UK prescribed groups. My understanding is different than the committee's.
So you weren't aware. So then it begs the question, are YouTube even taking this call for you to give evidence seriously, or are you really just out to insult Parliament and the public by not being prepared to answer the questions which you know will be put before you?
They took it very seriously. I take it very seriously. I wanted to come here and testify and tell you that we are working night and day to make it better, and that clearly we fell short in this instance, and apologize.
So perhaps I can make this really clear. You've been called by Parliament to give evidence as a result of serious breaches of illegal prescribed organisations on your platform, yet the 2 most basic questions, which are about your reviewers, can you tell me what training your reviewers receive to be able to identify prescribed groups?
They receive weeks-long training in the prescribed groups' logos, in their ideology. One challenge in this instance is that when they are working on the job to deal with these videos, many of the videos they see tend to be Islamist videos. It's just a matter of volume. We see so few national action videos. That's why the reviewers were not able to spot them, and that's why we are making sure that these get routed to specialized reviewers.
So the particular case that we wrote to you and asked you to give evidence about, you did not feel it was fit to look into that and look into why you had that human failure or that reviewer failure before you came to give evidence before us today?
We looked into why the system broke down, why these videos remained online, and we identified it as a failure in human judgment, and we are making the appropriate changes.
You're still not answering the question, Mr McCann. You're not familiar. You have said time and time again, my colleague, Mr Ross, asked you specifically about the reviewer, and you have no idea about it, do you? About this particular incident?
I don't know about the specific person.
Thank you. Your algorithms on YouTube, when you are searching for national action, will then promote the likes of Tommy Robinson and Britain First. This is despite the fact that the Finsbury Park Mosque, where somebody was killed, and that's recently been in the headlines, despite the fact that videos of Tommy Robinson were cited as part of the online radicalisation of Darren Osborne in the Finsbury Park court case, YouTube continues to promote them videos. What have you got to say about that?
We are working to make sure that videos that promote hate or promote violence, if they violate our policies, are removed from the platform. If they walk right up to the line, we have also, at the encouragement of this committee, developed a new enforcement mechanism to limit the features that these have. They should not be appearing in our recommendation engine. If they are, I will take this back to our team and see what the problem is.
Okay, but they are. I mean, they are appearing. They are in my recommended timeline at the moment. So because I've been searching on my iPad for National Action videos, I, as a result, have the first 2 videos recommended to me by YouTube. When I just click on, as I've just done with this afternoon, I click onto YouTube, the first 2 recommendations are Tommy Robinson videos. So the Tommy Robinson that was identified as part of the Finsbury Park online radicalisation process, that's what YouTube's recommended. I've not searched for it. YouTube has recommended that to me. Doesn't that cause you some serious alarm?
I can't speak to these particular videos personally. It causes me a lot of alarm, but I will take this back to our team and see why this is happening.
It's not even just about the individual videos. It's actually a recommended channel. I have got up here, it is coming up as my recommended channels, that one of the recommended channels for me is Tommy Robinson recommended channel. I've also got British Warrior. I've got a series of other, quite sort of extreme things that are coming up. But I have specifically Tommy Robinson recommended channel. You can pass you my iPad.
It's important for the company and for our bottom line, for the recommendation engine to work as it is intended to make sure that people can find quality content that they are looking for. It should not be serving up videos that incite or inspire hate. If it is, there is a problem, and I will take it back to the team and see that it's addressed.
But lots of people have raised this with you. This is not just us. This is not the first. I do not believe this is the first time you have heard this. Allegations and concerns that your algorithms are promoting more and more extreme content at people. Whatever they search for, what they get back is a whole load more extreme recommendations coming through the algorithms. You are the king of the search engine, and yet your search engines are promoting things that further and further radicalise people. Whatever they search for, they get something more back.
And we are working to make sure that is not happening. We, for example, on news, where we have a lot of problems in this space, we are beginning to use an authority ranking to make sure that when you start with the news from a quality source, that you continue to be suggested news from quality sources.
Raymond Chisty.
Just a couple of points, if I may. With regards to the tragic and horrific incident at Finsbury Park Mosque, the vile act carried out by Darren Osborne, and the following judgment given by Mrs. Justice Chima Garb to say the short time between seeing the material, being radicalised and carrying out a violent terrorist incident, that the individual had in part been radicalised by seeing material by Tommy Robinson. Your experience, you've worked at the State Department advising on extremism. I've seen you've written a number of books. You've been at a number of think tanks. The material, the vile material put out by Tommy Robinson, just in the question earlier that you raised about your policy and your criteria, does his vile poison material online violate your policy criteria?
I can say in general that hateful content can create an atmosphere that can lead people to radicalize. Whether his specific statements fall foul of our guidelines or not, I cannot tell you without looking at the specific content.
Can I just ask you, this is what concerns me. You're saying you cannot tell me without looking at it. There was a High Court decision in which his name was mentioned, that he was linked to having radicalised an individual who carried out terrorist attacks. And then you're saying to me, since then, you have not looked at your criteria to see if that individual's material is radicalising individuals with your own expertise in radicalisation and extremism, which is all littered over here. You haven't done that.
I can't speak to this specific content.
Your organisation haven't done that.
I can't speak to that either.
Do you think you should have done that? As an organisation, after there's a High Court judgment to say an individual to be mentioned in that, Tommy Robinson, his vile views had led to an individual being radicalised into carrying out a terrorist attack in the United Kingdom. First duty of the state is to protect its citizens. Following from that judgment, that name is mentioned in that. Do you not think you should have looked at that name and thought if his vile views violate your policy criteria?
I will certainly take it back to our team.
I have no further questions.
Douglas Ross.
Mr McCants, final question for me, more an observation as well as a question. So I've read your resume, your quite impressive resume around counter-extremism and Islamist extremism in particular. But do you think you were the right person to be appearing before us to give us the questions that we're asking about a far-right group in Great Britain, given everything that we've just discussed?
Counterterrorism specialists tend to, at one hand, work at a comparative level across all of these groups to find their commonalities. And on another level, each of us has our own specialty. When I've been briefing the FBI, briefing the military, I will often draw comparisons to far-right groups, because part of the challenge we find is that when you just focus on the Islamist groups, the audience tends to attribute everything these groups do to religion, and they don't understand that there's a lot of commonalities between these various terrorist groups. So I find that kind of comparison very helpful. I'm much more aware of the far-right groups in the United States, and there is a lot to be learned about how these groups operate online, their similarities and differences.
Perhaps I could make it easy for you, Mr McCants. What I'm struggling to understand is that you're the head of counterterrorism at YouTube, but actually what we're looking at is the transactional issues of your reviewers, of you removing content offline and taking it down. When we had evidence from YouTube in the past, you were very clear. When there's copyrighted material, such as songs, such as albums, the minute they appear, you remove them within minutes. And yet you've got nothing, you've not invested anything to match that kind of copyrighted material. And yet this stuff is dangerous. It leads to people losing their lives. It's illegal. It's a cancer in society, is terrorism. And yet you're not putting the effort into it. And frankly, I feel insulted that YouTube sent you to answer the questions. And this is not about your competence in your field, but actually as an organisation as big as YouTube sends somebody who doesn't know the basic answers to the questions, and yet you've had nearly a week's notice to be answering us.
Ma'am, I share your description of terrorism as a cancer. That's why YouTube is dedicated to removing that content from its platform. And we are putting in place fixes every day, spending millions of dollars to address this problem. Our technology is getting faster, and we are expanding the number of personnel who work on this issue, and we continue to make improvements. Are we perfect? No. Will we be perfect? No. But we are getting better and better. This
isn't about perfection, Mr. McCann. This is about you being the wrong person before this committee and not having a clue what you're talking about. That's what I feel has just happened in this evidence session.
Mr. McCann, do you think what YouTube is doing by allowing these videos to continue is illegal?
According to UK law, and I am not a lawyer, I don't think these videos themselves are illegal, but they are certainly against our policies. We do not allow prescribed organizations, prescribed terrorist organizations, prescribed groups to have a presence on YouTube, and we are doing everything in our power to take them down.
So the prescribing of organisations includes urging people to support these organisations, and these are clearly propaganda videos. So you do not believe that by continuing to host these videos you are doing anything illegal?
If we receive legal notice that this material is illegal, our lawyers review it and then make the appropriate judgment.
Do you think we should start making it illegal, given that you seem to be not capable of taking it down in the current circumstances?
Ma'am, I can't advise you on legal matters, but I can tell you we are seized with dealing with this problem.
Well, we have to move on to other matters. Mr. McCann, you were obviously, when we contacted YouTube and Google, we gave your organisation the discretion who you wanted to send, how many people that you wanted to send, and how you wanted to give us evidence. And I think the failing that we have seen today is a corporate one by YouTube and also by Google. The fact is that you are continuing to host
illegal organisations. You are continuing to collude with these illegal organisations by providing a platform for their extremism. And your algorithms are continuing to promote radicalisation by promoting more and more extreme organisations. The failing is not simply an accident. The evidence that you have given us today is so weak that I'm afraid this looks like a failure to even do the basics along the way and even to be able to respond to the questions that we have asked. We are grateful for you giving your time today, but we are extremely disappointed by the evidence that you have given. I hope you will take the opportunity to give us some further written evidence that responds to the questions that you are unable to answer, and to give us that written evidence next week. And I also hope that you will go back to both YouTube and Google and say to them that, frankly, the richest organisation in the world should be capable of doing a better job than this on national security and public safety issues. Thank you very much.